Hello Red Case listeners, welcome back to our channel that discusses true crime stories that really happened around the world. We hope that you are all in good health and kept away from danger. Taking the life of another human being is a horrific and inconceivable act that always leaves us with the question, why? Unfortunately, we do not always get a solid answer. Even in the case of an adult killer, their motives can remain puzzling, let alone if the perpetrator was just a child. While it is rare for children to commit such a serious crime, when it happens, we begin to search for someone to blame. Is it the child? The family? Or perhaps the society they live in the case of 11-year-old Mary Bell. People were quick to condemn her as a bad seed, a freak of nature. But was Mary truly evil from birth and destined to kill? Or was she the unfortunate result of an upbringing so horrifying that it shaped her into someone capable of murder? Tonight, we explore the chilling case of Mary Bell, the child killer who shocked the world. Much like the rest of the UK, the northeast of England was an area going through many changes during the 1950s. The coal mines, the shipyards, they were the beating heart of towns like Newcastle. And with the post-war baby boom, new housing was built, old buildings demolished, and the future looked bright for many, but not for everyone. In 1957, a 17-year-old girl named Elizabeth Betty Bell was pregnant with her second child. Her life was already a struggle. Betty was a sex worker, an alcoholic, and a drug addict. On May 26, 1957, she gave birth to a baby girl named Mary Flora Bell. From the very beginning, Mary's life was surrounded by rejection. It said that just moments after giving birth, Betty screamed at the nurses, "Take the thing away from me." Mary's biological father remains a mystery. But growing up, she saw her mother's partner, William "Billy" Bell, as her dad. Billy was no saint, a petty criminal with a history of armed robbery and drinking, but to Mary, he was the only source of warmth in a cold and cruel home. The family lived in an impoverished slum in Scotswood, Newcastle, a bleak neighborhood where survival was a daily battle. The Bell household was no place for a child. Their home on White House Road was dark, cramped, and miserable. The room Mary shared with her sibling had previously been used to store coal. Her mother, Betty, seemed to want nothing to do with her children. Multiple times, she tried to give Mary away, even once nearly sending her to Australia with another family, only to have the plan stopped by relatives. But being returned to Betty was not a blessing, it was a curse. Betty was violent. She suffered from mood swings and severe depression. She would lash out at her children, beating them with whatever she could find, sometimes even a dog chain. On some occasions, she allegedly tried to overdose Mary with pills. On others, she attempted to drown her in a bathtub or pushed her toward a third-floor window. And if that wasn't enough horror, Betty's job as a sex worker specializing in bondage and sadomasochism often took place right in the family home. Clients came and went. Betty would claim, "I hid the whips from the kids." But walls are thin, and children hear everything. Even more disturbing, Mary would later claim that her mother allowed clients to abuse her, claims that some family members disputed, but the scars, whether physical or psychological, were undeniable. Given the environment Mary grew up in, it's no surprise that something inside her began to twist. Teachers described her as intelligent but emotionally distant. She was unpredictable, laughing one moment, then attacking classmates the next. Other children feared her. They avoided the girl with the cold, piercing blue eyes. She was known to bully younger, smaller children, those who couldn't fight back. Her one companion was Norma Joyce Bell, an older girl who, despite sharing the same last name, was not related to Mary. Norma was 2 years older, taller, and physically stronger. But mentally, she was Mary's follower. Together, the pair roamed the crumbling, derelict streets of Scotswood, playgrounds for their dark imaginations. They played a twisted version of truth or dare, but their dares often involved violence. On May 11, 1968, the darkness began to surface in horrifying ways. A 3-year-old boy was found near a pub, bleeding, confused, and terrified. Earlier that day, Mary and Norma had taken him to an abandoned air raid shelter. There, Mary pushed him off a high ledge as part of a dare. The boy survived, but it was a sign of what was to come. The very next day, the girls broke into a nursery playground and attacked 3 young girls, Pauline Watson, Cindy Heppel, and Susan Cornish, choking them and stuffing sand into their mouths. Thankfully, the girls escaped alive and ran home to their parents. When questioned, Mary shrugged it off, claiming they had just been playing. Police let them go. It was seen as childish mischief. No one imagined the storm brewing just beneath the surface. On May 25, 1968, just 2 weeks after the attacks, Mary committed her first murder. Martin Brown, a lively and energetic 4-year-old, was found dead in an abandoned house on St. Margaret's Road. His friends had gone looking for him, only to stumble upon his lifeless body. When police arrived, the scene was strange. There were no visible injuries, only an empty aspirin bottle nearby, leading investigators to suspect poisoning. But toxicology found no traces of drugs. The cause of death was listed as undetermined. The possibility of strangulation was overlooked. Shockingly, Mary and Norma were among the first on the scene, watching as police and paramedics tried to revive the boy. To the horror of witnesses, Mary appeared delighted, observing with an unsettling calmness. The very next day, Mary's 11th birthday, she and Norma broke into the same nursery they had attacked before. This time, they left behind a set of handwritten notes. The messages were crude, filled with spelling mistakes and profanity. One read, "I murder so that I may come back." Another eerily stated, "We did murder Martin Brown." Police dismissed the notes as a childish prank. The nursery was cleaned, and the warning signs were ignored. On July 31, 1968, tragedy struck again. Brian Howe, just 3 years old, was playing outside with his siblings in Scotswood. He was a sweet, gentle boy, trusting of others. Brian never came home. A search was launched. After hours of looking, his tiny body was found between 2 large concrete blocks on waste ground. This time, the brutality was undeniable. Brian had been strangled. There were marks on his neck, scratches on his body, and his hair had been chopped off in chunks. Worse still, a pair of scissors had been used to carve an M into his abdomen. This was no accident. This was a message. The police knew this was murder. And soon, suspicion turned toward the 2 girls who always seemed to be nearby. Mary and Norma Bell. Norma was visibly shaken, breaking down during questioning. She described in detail how Mary had led Brian away, how she had strangled him, and how Mary had returned to mutilate the body with scissors. Mary, in contrast, was cold and defiant. When detectives told her that they had found Brian's body, her reply was chilling, "That's all right. Brian's dead then." The trial began in December 1968. The courtroom was filled with shock and disbelief. 2 schoolgirls, sitting in the defendant's box, accused of the cold-blooded murder of 2 toddlers. Psychiatrists described Mary as intelligent but manipulative with classic symptoms of psychopathy, a diagnosis that was almost unheard of in someone so young. Norma was portrayed as simple-minded, easily led, and terrified. In the end, the jury found Norma not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility. She was placed under supervision. Mary was found guilty of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility, meaning that while she had committed the acts, her mental state reduced her culpability. At just 11 years old, Mary Bell was sentenced to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure, an indefinite sentence with no set release date. Mary spent her adolescence in secure facilities and later in prison. Over time, her behavior improved. By the 1980s, she was released, given a new identity and granted lifelong anonymity to protect her privacy. She went on to have a child of her own, her daughter never knowing her mother's past until the media discovered it years later. The public outrage was enormous. In 2003, a legal order was extended to grant Mary Bell's anonymity for life, including for her daughter. So, was Mary Bell born evil? Or was she a child shaped by a monstrous upbringing, a victim who became a perpetrator? This case forces us to ask difficult questions about childhood trauma, mental health, and whether someone so young can truly comprehend the gravity of murder. Thank you for listening to this episode of Red Case. We hope this story gives you insight into how complex true crime can be, even when the perpetrator is a child. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Mary was a product of her environment? Or was there something darker inside her all along? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future episodes about the world's most shocking true crime stories. Stay safe and always be aware of your surroundings. Until next time, goodbye.